We are going live. Welcome to RPG Talk Show. My name is Daniel Ivey, and this is
John Wilker, Vice President of RPG Research, also co-founder of RPG Research. Hawk Robinson and Danielle Whitworth are the other co-founders.
Yep.
Hawk Robinson is working very hard to raise the funding to keep this place open until the end of our lease. Danielle is working very hard to keeping her children alive. Well, one child and a husband, but you know.
Yeah.
And
We acknowledge the work that they have done, and they have and will always be a valuable member of our community.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, speaking about our community, one of the purposes of this talk show, besides spreading our knowledge and being a voice piece to let people know that RPG Research exists, the 501c3 nonprofit organization that we are, is for fundraising.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Facebook does is have birthday fundraisers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's about 2 weeks long. It's I've never had big turnabout. I think I made $50 one year.
Yeah.
But I've done it like every year since 2017. And this year I got a little exuberant with my birthday. Today is my birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. I am now 57 years old. And
How does that feel?
kind of like 56, but with more aches and pains.
I'm not looking forward to that.
I recommend to everybody, get older, don't age.
Yeah, aging is a trap.
Yes. And put your children safely away in Ziploc bags or...
No, don't do that. Do not put your children in Ziploc bags. No.
Okay, I get it. You're one of those Tupperware people.
Exactly. See, the Tupperware isn't the choking hazard.
Right. Okay. So if you go to
The
Facebook...
sleeping bags don't keep the freshness. I should know. I've been in enough sleeping bags. After a weekend in a sleeping bag, it is not fresh at all.
Yeah, Erie, Indiana had an episode about Tupperware. Yeah, I think I remember that one. So as part of my birthday, go to facebook.com and you can donate. All the money will go straight to RPG Research. I won't see a dime of it other than on my reports. Like, you know, we get annual reports of stuff like that.
I believe I did it. I believe I did that for my birthday as well. But I am not comfortable putting my birthday out on the internet because I don't need to engage in that meme any longer. That is the only hint I will ever give to my birthday.
Now, I did something I don't normally do. Normally, I just post it and let it go. I went through my entire friend list and invited almost everybody. Some of them I didn't invite only because, well, it's the fifth account of the same person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Other people I didn't invite were simply, again, due to redundancies.
Yeah. Earth, I know where you live. You better not to. Yes, I am threatening you. Do not put my birthday out on the internet. Let's say that it's a HIPAA violation.
Yeah. Besides, nobody would believe that his birthday was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You really don't want me exercising my eldritch abilities on camera.
Oh, speaking of eldritch abilities, Elon Musk. We're not getting political here.
Oh, jeez.
And whether you like Elon Musk, hate Elon Musk, or for some bizarre reason have no idea who I'm talking about, he voiced an opinion, and because it was Elon Musk, his opinion ended up on several news channels and stuff like that. I'm not sure that it ended up on, like, television news channels.
Yeah.
But it is definitely on the internet. And his basic opinion is that He does not like how Dungeons and Dragons people were the inventors. Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson, we'll say Perrin can get in there.
Yeah.
Joseph Perrin. And all of the other people that had a lot to do with the early creation of things. So the making of original Dungeons & Dragons 1970 through 1977. Now, first of all, the nitpicker in me would say, you mean 1974 through 1977?
Yeah.
But, you got to realize that there was pre-publication making of.
Yes. Yeah.
So Chainmail came out before Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And then it became Dungeons and Dragons, and it was being play tested and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So 4 years of time from when he first started going that way. Also, you can argue about the effects of Brownstein, which gives more credit to Dave Arneson for the original.
Oh, Blackstone.
Well, no, Blackstone. Which is actually Blackmore.
Blackmore, yeah.
Blackmore was his campaign.
Yeah.
But Brownstein was the name of the role-playing type game without published things. So whether or not it was the first role-playing game, and we can go back, if we're talking about non-published role-playing games, we can go back way far. We can go back to the actual Regency era.
Yeah.
And find people that were playing quote-unquote role-playing games with character sheets.
Yeah. I mean, we have evidence of the Bronte sisters playing role-playing games as well.
Exactly.
But it wasn't published, and we have to start somewhere, and we're going off of publication. Brownstein wasn't published, so we have to go with Dungeons and Dragons publication date being 1974.
Now, we can always definitely 100% say that it influenced the existence of Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely.
Just like the Lord of the Rings.
Yes. And Frankenstein.
And not Mars Attacks, War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And
we
Tarzan.
And we can list an infinite amount of influences to Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Yeah.
So, over the last summer, there's been some controversy. I've put a link.
Especially with the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, with the 50th. So this book, Making of Original Dungeons & Dragons, 1970 through 1977, which is the the official history as put out by Wizards of the Coast. And there are going to probably be things that other people are going to argue about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are comments that John Peterson made in the foreword on the sexism and use of gods in the early books. If you go to the link that Parth will put up, you will see that there's also links directly to the comments. So Elon Musk made the comment, nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to trash Gary Gygax and the geniuses who created Dungeons and Dragons. So he's obviously a fan. What the blank is wrong with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast? May they burn in hell. The problem with this, in my opinion, is not that Elon Musk presented this opinion. It's the fact that a lot of people have problems with the origins of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And yes, there was some sexism. Yes, there was misogyny.
Yeah.
And trust me, don't at me unless you are at least old enough to have been there. If you didn't live in the 1970s, your opinions about what everybody thought of in the 1970s is kind of mute.
Honestly, because I started in second edition, I saw that there was sexism there.
There's definitely sexism.
Yeah, there is still sexism there. We haven't gotten rid of sexism. It is an incredibly...
All the social ills that ever existed are still here.
Yeah. It is an incredibly nuanced conversation.
I just read yesterday on Twitter. I don't like the new name. I don't feel like I should be having a platform that's named after porn.
Yeah. Well,
But anyways,
that it's the name. The name muddies what you're talking about.
it's actually completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
But the arguments of like, okay, anyways, I got sidetracked there for a second.
A lot of sidetracking here.
I'm doing the weave. Anyways, the point was that somebody, a woman, made an extremely sexist comment against women yesterday on Twitter. It doesn't matter what she said, doesn't matter who she was. The point is, sexism still exists.
Yeah.
And we do have a tendency as a culture now to try to hold accountable the people who, by the way, all but one of them that was in part of the original Dungeons and Dragons is literally dead. So it's not like they get to defend themselves against these claims and stuff.
Right.
These ideas that they should have known better when all of media and not all of the people, when I say all, I do not mean in the scientific example of 100%.
Yeah.
But the media at the time was sexist.
Yeah.
The television, the books.
Yep.
Heck, there was a book that I used to read, and it was fairly popular. People have started underground cultures around this book. I can't remember the name of the book right now, but basically it was the ultimate male power fantasy. Guy from Earth goes to another planet. He's stronger than everybody because he's from Earth.
Yeah.
And almost all of the women are slaves.
Yeah.
And
I could see how that could be problematic.
but it was also very popular amongst males and females of the time. One of the funny things about the sexism of the time was that a good number of females of the time reinforced those beliefs on how male behavior was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I literally lost at least 2 girlfriends because I wasn't 1970s, 1980s machismo. That I was too much of a gentleman for them.
Yeah.
So, yes, they had issues with these things. There were problematic things.
Yeah.
And guess what? Sexism worldwide, this is an American thing, it's not a gamer thing, and it's not a racial thing, has existed since we discovered that there were males and females.
Yeah.
You're different shape than me. That started it all.
I would argue that we can go past our species. I believe sexism occurs in chimpanzees. I know that sexism occurs in bonobos, and those are our closest species relatives.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, some people say, oh, well, in the good old days, good old days for A, for who, and B, it's always been cyclical.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the height of the Roman Empire a good old day? Depends. Were you in the gladiator arena or were you up in the stands?
Yeah.
Was the 50s the good old days? Depends.
Depends on who you were.
And where you lived, where you worked. what kind of accent you had, if any.
Yeah.
So, so sexism and racism and accusations of racism based on what they want to project on it. The idea that Tolkien substituted orcs for black Africans doesn't make sense when you consider that the origin of the orcs were elves.
Mutated goblins which were mutated elves. Yeah.
They were tortured and treated horribly until they became orcs. So they're not even a separate race.
So I feel like, and this is something that I've been noticing, in the inspection of our history and multiple aspects of our history, not just with gaming. I've seen this in so many different aspects where we tend to take a look at our history through our lens, and although that can have certain information, I feel like at times it is irresponsible to do so without at least taking a look at the history through that history's lens.
Right. Nobody, and I do mean nobody, that I could find a record of. And when I say nobody, I really do not mean, again, the scientific 100%.
You're using a generalization.
I'm using a generalization. I guarantee you that one person out there at the time it was put out, declared Song of the South as being racist. At the time it came out.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the people enjoyed the show.
Songs of the South by Disney?
Yes.
Yeah.
Song of the South, the Disney movie with Bear Rabbit and various culturally inappropriate depictions.
I would argue actually there was a fair amount of people who did have problems with it, but it wasn't made for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at... Her last name is Black now. Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple had a very interesting relationship with her black servant. In her shows. Was that racism, or was that just normal for the time?
Yeah.
But okay, now I'm going to read directly from the comments. I'm not reading all of them. I'm reading the highlighted part. But this book also includes something never before published, the original draft of Dungeons and Dragons Gary Gygax crafted in his home typewriter with him and Anderson's annotations and corrections. This draft led to the 1974 publication, the first edition of D&D, which reprinted here in its entirety.
Yeah.
And that's in the history book thing. Some languages in the first iteration of D&D presented moral conjuring, or presents, as in current test.
Yeah.
The documents reproduced in this book include many pages of charts and tables alongside lists of monster spells and magic items. But the game context includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually harmful to anyone with a physical or mental disability, or who happens to be old, fat, non-conservatively attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman.
Yeah.
Now, again,
honestly, that sounds like looking at history through modern lenses as opposed to what was historically,
right. So Oriental Adventures right now is really frowned upon for using the word Oriental.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that that was what was used in college courses at the time. The people who were studying the Far East were studying Orientalism.
Yeah. It was a word that was used to describe that. There wasn't any weight, any moral weight on that word. I remember when the Orient, and Oriental, it was just a descriptor.
Yeah. And it was no more of a insult than calling somebody African.
Yeah.
even though Africa has how many countries in it? More than enough.
Yeah. Now, mind you, there is an issue, for example, and I don't know why the word Orient has become polarizing, but I do know that people who are from China and Japan and many of those East Asian countries have, especially from Western perspective, have a issue with being fetishized.
Well, that's actually not where the problem with the Oriental
Where's it
is
coming from?
It came from the same thing as I was telling you about calling people African. Because it dismisses the difference between somebody from the Congo and somebody from South Africa versus somebody from Upper Egypt.
Okay.
It's not a monoculture.
Right.
African is not a monoculture.
But I'm not offended by someone saying I'm a West Indian. From the West Indies.
Yes.
Yeah. I understand it's a large area. I can then specify and say, yeah, Jamaica from the West Indies. I know that Bahamians aren't Jamaicans.
Okay, so the theory is that the use of the word Oriental paints every Asian person, whether they're Burmese, Chinese, or Indian, as being a monolith,
So
regardless of whether it does or not.
So we have polarized a word because of people's inability to use the nuance.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working with bad assumptions. In the 1970s, historical wargamers in America were predominantly white, middle-class men. Guess what? It's still the same thing.
Yeah.
Predominantly. There are...
I would actually argue that there was a higher diversity back then.
Not at the war game table.
True.
At the role-playing table, there was.
Yes.
But the war gamers tended to be that way. Also, up until 1913, war games were predominantly the rich, not middle class. 13's Little Wars.
That's the one that opened it up to the middle class.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so it isn't surprising that they would double class of soldiers the fighting men. But when in the pages of Greyhawk, the description of the Queen of Chaotic Dragons includes a dig at women's lib, the misogyny is revealed as a conscious choice. Okay, no, it doesn't. There is no dig at women's lib in the Queen of Chaotic Dragons. Her name is Tiamat. And
that's a biblical name.
Oh, it's Babylonian.
Yeah.
It's pre-Bible.
Yeah.
It is, but here's the thing. Tiamat, the multi-headed dragon from Babylonian mythos, was always a woman.
Okay.
So, not changing its gender wasn't sexist or a jab at, they say, but it's a male, the good god, and the bad god is female.
Yeah.
Because they've always been that. It's like, some people today complain about John Wick, rightfully so, that they call him Baba Yaga. Why should be people offended that John Wick is called Baba Yaga? Baba Yaga is a woman. He's from the right area to have references to Baba Yaga. But
what would be a male Baba? What would be the equivalent of a male boogeyman that isn't from that area, Baba Yaga?
I'd have to Google that, but Baba Yaga is a specific boogeyman.
Yeah.
It is not a generic monster. If you wanted to make Baba Yaga into a generic monster, the closest you could in Dungeons and Dragons would be call her a hag.
Yeah. Hag is still very much. It is female.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying it's just a specific one. So to say what's the male equivalent of a Baba Yaga, well, Bob Yaga, I guess.
Yeah.
Or Billy Bob Yaga.
And from honestly, from a strictly writing perspective, yeah, I can be accurate by having a male boogeyman, but it's not going to have the punch of Baba Yaga, which everyone knows.
Not everybody. And I'm going to say not everybody because most people just let it slip.
Either way, it's not going to have the same punch that I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, the misogyny is a conscious choice. I'm sorry, but it is not a conscious choice to not change the gender of a specific incident. It's like, well, let's have Othello played by a short Chinese woman. Now, that's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
But it's not a conscious choice to just go with, let's get a tall black man. Because that's who Othello is.
Mm-hmm.
Not making a change to the canon is not a conscious choice. It's just accepting what's already there. Let's see here. Unfortunate Weldon similar appear in the original D&D. They actually did. Maybe not in the first book. There were women there. When they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. There was a lot of conversation about, the men can be topless or fully armored, but women must be sexualized. I looked at a lot of the pictures from there, and from the eyes of a 13-year-old boy, and there are appropriately dressed women depicted.
Yeah, there are.
There's also very inappropriately dressed women that in Europe nobody would bat an eye at.
That, and there's the historical. It's a well-worn trope of the chainmail bikini. Is it realistic? Absolutely not.
Does it sell covers?
Yes.
Absolutely yes. Okay. Now, it's unfortunate fact that when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Slavery appears in original D&D not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over centuries, but a simple commercial transaction. BS. There a lot of people are, of course, believing this is now. This person isn't distinguishing original D&D.
Yeah.
Yes, it does mention in the very super simplified rule set that's literally this thick.
Mm-hmm.
A price of a slave.
Yeah.
You had to add all the story elements to it. There's no in the original Dungeons and Dragons sets. There's not a lot of nuances. It's combat rules.
Yeah. You add the nuance to your stories.
Okay.
If you want to address slavery and the nuances of it, then you do that in your stories. If you don't, then you don't. And I can actually point to a very famous story.
This is the first Dungeons and Dragons book.
Uh-huh.
Right here. Now this is a reproduction. I have a original. I just don't feel like getting up and looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a reproduction. The pictures were different.
Yeah.
There was a picture on one of these of a naked woman about to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
This is what, this is the Blackmore book. This is an original. Here's a reproduction of Chainmail as these came out. Now look at these.
There's not much.
Where's the nuance in that?
There are bare bones concepts that you flesh out in your stories.
Monsters, magic, underworld, wilderness adventures. It took lots of supplements to get them all. And let's see here. Do we have a nice thing? Forward, scope, equipment, page 5. Now, note, page 5, recommended equipment. Well, it tells you to have what dice you need. It tells you to have a copy of chainmail.
Yeah.
It also tells you that it would be good for wilderness adventures to have the wilderness adventure board game.
Yeah, for all the,
Okay, so
exploration, outdoor exploration.
that's equivalent to characters, character alignment, languages, non-players. Basic equipment cost, 13.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that. 14, 13. Okay. Well, it's non-player characters, capture non-player monsters, loyalty non-player characters, including monsters, relatives, base equipment and cost. Dagger makes more weapons, horses, saddlebags, barting horse. Oh, wow, look at that. I did not see a slave in the list. Weight of a man. And this is how many gold pieces everything weighed. So employing encumbrance, weight and equivalence.
Is it possible that they're confusing the cost of hirelings with the slave?
Well, hirelings
Because they're not the same.
aren't in here either.
Okay.
Basic encumbrance costs, encumbrance, weights and equivalents, levels, numbers, experience points, statistics regarding classes, alternate combat system, saving throw matrix, spells, explanation spells, magical research, books and spells. Guess what?
No slaves?
No slaves.
Okay.
None.
Yeah.
First Dungeons and Dragons book. None. Oh, this is original Dungeons and Dragons. Not first edition, not basic Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Now, when we get into the advanced Dungeons and Dragons, oh yes, we do have an example of slavery. Not to be mistaken for the Forgotten Realms slavery that was put into modules by Wizards of the Coast. Now,
Not TSR.
I'm going to say the slavery was already there because Forgotten Realms actually
It's
predates.
Wizards of the Coast. Yeah.
Well, it predates TSR.
That too.
Yeah, it predates Dungeons and Dragons. It was a world like Lord of the Rings that was designed to be a fictional backing. Let's see if I can spot this real quick without causing too much chaos.
Okay. You'll be back soon.
You won't even miss me.
Yeah.
These things in order for a reason. Just so I can forget where I put them.
So while you're doing that, I wanted to mention that we can look at a... Oh, you found it?
Yeah, this is a reprint. It is the exact same thing as the original, except that they combined them all together. A1, Slave Pits of the Undercity. A2, Secrets of the Slaver Stockade. A3, Assault on the Area of the Slave Lords. And A4, In the Dungeons of the Slave Lords. Now, this is 4 classic adventures.
Yep.
The entire collection is called...
Against the slave lords?
Right. So
Okay.
this was the most slave-intensive book or series of modules. There are 4 modules in here. Actually, there's a 5th module in here because they wanted to add a earlier module, which is like A0.
Yeah.
So this is it.
Yeah.
This is your slave book. And what is that first word?
Against. In opposition of them.
Correct. This isn't glorifying slavery. The slavers are the bad guys.
Yeah.
It is not making light of it. It's 4, and now with this, 5 modules about defeating slavers.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Actun Cthulhu. It mentions Nazis. Therefore, it's very, very evil. No, Cthulhu is fighting against the Nazis.
Yeah.
The Nazis are the bad guys. The players are not.
Can I contrast this to a popular, an entirely popular franchise at this point that I feel has slavery, but has a much lighter, where it's like, oh, this happens, but they do not. They have slavery, but they do not show the genuine horrors of it. They kind of make light of it.
What's that?
Star Wars.
I'm not sure you can say they make light of it, but it definitely isn't addressed as...
It's not the horrors of slavery that they have aren't addressed. Anakin
went insane because of slavery.
They didn't... Yeah, I know he went insane. As someone whose history includes slavery, that wasn't slavery that was portrayed.
No. Wait.
George Lucas's portrayal of slavery wasn't slavery.
Well, okay. Just to clarify, are you saying it was more of a portrayal of an indentured servant?
Yeah.
Which is technically not the same thing as slavery.
Correct.
Because you can be bought out of it. Mm-hmm. And yes, the system is designed so that you can't get yourself out. Mm-hmm. There's a famous song, I owe my soul to the company's store, mm-hmm. because you get a job and you had to buy everything you needed, from a bar of soap to food to clothing to everything had to be bought out of the company's mm-hmm. store. And the prices were always more than you could make.
Yeah.
So don't worry. We'll just add on to your debt.
Yeah.
And you'll work it off
mm-hmm.
30, 40 years from now.
Right. So Anakin, if he's a chattel slave, would not have been allowed to even be on a speeder. No. He would have had incredibly limited rights and ability to do anything. Star Wars doesn't have an accurate portrayal of slavery. And the prequels came out while I was an adult. This is Dungeons & Dragons, which is, older than I am, had a better, dealt with slavery better than the prequels. Yeah.
And if you want to run a game mm-hmm. that has no slavery,
yeah,
and your fictional world never had slavery,
yeah,
cool,
yeah,
enjoy that game.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to run a world that had never had misogyny, never mm-hmm. had any of the social evils that we have now, I'm not sure what kind of conflicts you're going to come up against.
Yeah.
But there are cottage role-playing games where the worst thing you have to deal with is whether or not the crops will come in.
Yeah. It can be very, very engaging. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would also argue that if you want your games to tackle difficult topics, you're going to have those difficult topics to tackle.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to be a hero without a villain.
Yeah.
It's people used to complain about Dungeons & Dragons in the Satanic because
Panic,
because the existence of devils and demons.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of the devils and demons were they were the enemy. They were there to be defeated.
That reminds me, it's not a movie that I enjoy. I did not like it, but in the Space Jam 2, they removed Pepe Le Pew. Pepe Le Pew is very misogynistic. You can't point out that he's a misogynist with him not being a misogynist. And I grew up with Looney Tunes, where I grew up with Pepe Le Pew. I always knew he was doing problematic behavior.
And he also, while being portrayed as this problematic person.
Yeah.
And we're talking this is way back.
Mm-hmm.
This Pepe Le Pew was when?
Oh, I don't know.
All right. So Pepe Le Pew, 1945.
Oh yeah, he's definitely older than me.
Yeah, just slightly older than me. I was born in 1967. And as such, even back in 1945, Pepe Le Pew's behavior was not being showed as this was acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
That's why the black cat that he was always trying to woo him would hit him over the head with a hammer. He was not a role model.
Yeah.
He's a cute and lovable scoundrel.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it was a betrayal of an acceptable behavior. Now,
I could say that I learned the importance of consent by watching Pepe Le Pew.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Because even though some of the shows I was watching in the 70s and 80s, you got mixed messages about consent.
Oh, I never got a mixed message with Pepe Le Pew.
Well, not Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Pepe Le Pew was literally, forgive the pun, black and white.
Not only that, but I mean, if you didn't figure it out, he's misogynist. And he stinks because he's a skunk. The analogy is right there.
But I mean, I'm looking at one of our favorite hero actors. He played in such famous, he played in such famous roles as, I love you, I know.
Trying to remember.
Yeah. Han Solo.
Oh,
Yeah, we're talking Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, yeah.
In a lot of the roles, including the Han Solo role, he played characters who didn't take no for an answer. And the women loved him for it.
I know that we're going to be going to a break soon, but I do want to point out, looking back at that history through those lenses, I'm not saying that it is right now, but the dynamics of relationships were different back then, where there were certain social pressures that were needed. In fact, there's a very popular song that it's a back and forth between a man and a woman saying, "Oh, you should be leaving," and the man is giving all these reasons why she shouldn't stay, and the whole point is like she's going to stay over for the night, and there is a social pressure of they have to maintain the idea of them being demure and not being interested in having relationships.
Okay.
They have to have plausible deniability.
I've got to make several corrections for you.
Okay. It's more your time than my time.
Yes, I was there.
You were there.
1940 something. First of all, he was the one that had to leave. It was her house.
Yeah.
Then there were looking through modern eyes and reinterpreting what was in the drink. What is in this drink? The answer was alcohol.
Yes.
They are trying to look for the excuse that, socially not acceptable for you to stay here, even though there's a horrible storm. Baby, it's cold outside.
Yeah.
It has been blown completely out of proportion of what it was and what it meant. This isn't blurred lines.
So you would say that that song has far more nuance than we are seeing it not right now.
And it's, yes.
Yeah.
And it's being completely misinterpreted by people willfully misinterpreting it.
And that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well,
it's very easy to see things in black and white. Black and white, we live in a nuanced world.
Yeah.
We live in a nuanced world.
So the final thing I want to say on this is be grateful that these people, these flawed human beings, who are no better or worse than the flawed human beings that exist around us today, created role-playing games. So that you can complain about their flaws when they grew up in a society that does not resemble the society you grew up.
Yeah. And when it comes to Elon Musk, I think he made an incredibly unnuanced statement.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only reason he's being brought up at all is because it got people's attention
Yeah.
back on this topic that was already gone over last summer. I do want to thank everybody for watching. We will be back in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Go to rpgresearch.com/donate to keep us on the air and everything else that we need to do.
What are we talking about after the break?
Well, we're going to talk about listening to audio role-playing games.
What was that?
Audio role-playing games!
Okay.
Because, you know, believe it or not, there are a lot. And we'll talk about what that means and everything for you when we get back. See you shortly.
See in 15 minutes. Welcome back to the RPG Talk Show. My name is Daniel Ivey, and this is
John Wilker, Vice President of RPG Research. One of the things we do here at this 501c3 nonprofit organization is that we teach.
we attempt to.
Well, yeah, we attempt to.
Yeah.
We have classes that are currently not in session, but we're supposed to be bringing back next year.
I know
And
that I'm supposed to be training up some of our volunteers to refresh them on some of the skills that we've all learned.
right,
Yeah.
we want people to have a chance to learn about the intricacies of role-playing games, the science behind the role-playing games, whether Gary Gygax intended there to be a science behind it. I'm not sure Gary Gygax ever thought at the beginning that this stuff would be used in schools to teach math, science, history, and the Big Bang Theory and everything else. Also, probably didn't think of it as used in therapeutic needs. So we teach all these different things. And one of the things, of course, we teach is the various types of role-playing games.
Yeah.
There are 4 primary types. Tabletop role-playing game.
Which people are most familiar with.
Yep. We call that a TRPG. And the reason we don't call it a TTRPG is because tabletop's one word.
Yeah.
But we also have LRPG, which is live role-playing games, which is broken down into difference between a live element at a TRPG versus a full LARP, live action role-playing game. Then we get into CRPGs. Well, no, we don't do CRPG. It's ERPG first, electronic RPGs.
Yeah.
Any role-playing game that requires an electronic component for you to play would fit under the category of an ERPG.
Yep.
The biggest category is CRPG, computer role-playing games, which includes everything from the master race of desktop and
PC Master Race. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the PC Master Race.
I was wondering where you're going there. From World of Warcraft to Zork.
Right.
Yeah.
And to the Wii, PlayStation.
Yeah.
Any of those digital games, we call those under computer role-playing games.
Yeah.
But we also have another category under the ERPGs, which is audio role-playing games.
ARPGs.
And audio role-playing games are supposed to be played strictly verbal. You don't roll dice. No, dice will be rolled in the background. One of my favorite RPGs, actually, you would say you do something and you will hear the dice rolling.
Yeah.
And then it'll come up with a number and say, oh, 3, you missed.
So I have a question, because you said that it's audio RPGs are voice activated?
The good ones are.
Okay.
They're supposed to be voice activated. Some of them are you press the buttons. Now, we do have ones, like it's worth mentioning, the audio exercise games, which are not quite RPGs.
Yeah.
Because they don't fit all the requirements.
Of an RPG.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these, something that we've been thinking about maybe expressing so that you can, you've ran 100 miles.
Yeah.
You go up a level.
Or that's the Zombie Run one.
Yeah, that's the Zombie Run one. We can do other ones, exploratory ones, Pokemon Go versions, which is not an ARP, but it's a VAR.
Augmented reality.
Correct, thank you.
Yeah.
Augmented VRs, etc. So let's talk about some of the ones. Now, we used to use in the training one called Alexa Skill Dungeon Adventures.
Yeah.
So you would just say to your Alexa device,
Alexa, run Dungeon Adventure.
Or you say, run Alexa Skill Dungeon Adventure.
Yeah.
But the problem is, apparently, that has gone completely away.
Poof.
We even wrote an article on our website about the website, w3rpgresearch.com.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can't play it.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to the list of Alexa skills, then you will be able to find alternatives and other things.
I know that there's a Skyrim one that's still, I believe, is still active.
Right, which is basically the same as Dungeon Adventures.
Just with an actual setting.
Well, well, there's a setting in the other one.
Yeah.
But this has got the Skyrim flavor and phrases like...
Fushroda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mind you, it's also mature rating, so it's not for everyone.
Yeah. And you were supposed to be playing it completely audio. I talk to the box talks to me.
Yeah.
It's the Dungeon Master. I don't need to be able to see. I don't need to have any equipment.
Yeah.
I do have to memorize things or write them down.
Yeah.
Because you don't get a paper copy of your character sheet. You don't get a visual of any of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But we're finding out that a lot of these things have gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah. Another one that we weren't, we were going to mention the trigger warning for it because the narration on it can be quite traumatizing. Blindscape.
Yeah.
The website is still there, but the links to the game no longer function, so Blindscape is also gone.
Yeah, and that's really sad. It was actually one of the betters. I think it was more of an interactive fiction than an actual role-playing game.
Yeah, I don't think there was any level up of mechanics. And this is one of the reasons why I asked about it being voice activated.
No random.
Yeah.
And this one was a touch screen. You are playing blind.
Yeah, and you...
A black scrin, and you have to touch around things as you're feeling around the corridors and stuff like that. It was written for blind people, but at least the opening sequence when they burn out your when they make you blind. It's good to know that there were choices. Now, Wizard's Choice, I don't know if that one's still around.
I haven't been able to check on that one.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, though. It was buggy as all get out. It's supposed to be verbal.
Yeah.
But it won't. A lot more times than not, it would tell you that I don't understand you. Press a button.
Yeah.
And it kind of defeated the audio only aspect of it.
Now, in my research, I found out today how many of these that we lost. But I was able to find a couple of, and I'm not sure how this is going to overlap. But I found a number of games video games for blind people, which relies heavily on audio. And that's one of the reasons I was asking about, well, is it voice activated? Because at least two of the top games that I saw still use controllers, but you're blind.
Right. So that is a good question. But I would say that the primary distinction of an audio role-playing game is the fact that it is an electronic game that speaks to you but does not show you pictures.
Correct.
And so it is audio only, not visual. Now, how you interact with it is less important on how it interacts with you.
Right. Which means the two that I came across that I thought they were amazing, honestly. I feel like the caliber of these two games would eclipse even Blindscape.
And from what you had told me earlier, they are not interactive fiction.
No, they're not interactive fiction.
So, yeah, because Blindscape, as good as a story as it was, is more interactive fiction.
Right.
It's like a tale of tale.
Right. So the two that I came across were A Hero's Call by Out of Sight games.
Do we have a link for that?
Yes. I believe I sent that to Perth. A Hero's Call. But there are visuals. It is a black screen. You have to wear headphones because it is pan stereo.
Right, and that's very important for an audio. is that it should work better with headphones or surround sound speakers and stuff, because it's got to provide that directionality to be
Correct.
Now, it doesn't have to provide directionality to be a audio RPG,
No, it doesn't.
but it does kind of have to be a good or an exceptional RPG where direction is important.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're being snuck up behind or whatever.
The other one, and I was actually listening to, because there wasn't much visuals to it. The other one that I came across was, what is it called? The Veil: Shadow of the Crown.
Okay.
This is on Steam, but it's also on Steam. I believe it's on a bunch of other platforms as well, and it is the equivalent of what I saw and heard, kind of like an action RPG for the blind. Where
Awesome.
You had to deal with directionality. It wasn't a interactive fiction. You were making choices.
Right.
Yeah. So I listened to.
Well, choices beyond left or right.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's actual, you engage in combat. It isn't just, do I hit? You had to listen to the cues of when are they attacking for me to block and parry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you learn blind fighting that.
You had to learn blind fighting.
Would that be better as a VR? Can you imagine you put on the VR goggles and it just becomes a black screen so you can't see anything?
You'd have to put on headphones as well.
Yeah.
And this is why I say I feel like it eclipsed the blindscape. Because, yeah, you're still dealing with the blind, but...
I like the idea, though, of I hear it over here, so I swing over there, and if I don't swing there high or swing low where the target should be, or I don't put my shield up right, it penalizes me.
Yeah.
And you can learn actual blind fighting with that. But
Just me listening to it, I was like, oh, I have to listen. I was listening to this with my headphones on. I was like, oh, I could see when they were pinpointing certain things. So there was an instance in Veil: Shadow of the Crown where the main character, who is blind, was learning to use a bow and arrow. And they were trying to, oh, let's shoot this pig. And, well, sneak up to the pig, and you were given an audio cue of when you were close enough to the pig, and then you had to figure out, okay, where's the pig? And you lined up, and then you shot.
this was in this
This
game?
was in Veil: Shadow of the Crown.
Okay, but you're doing this?
Yes.
As opposed to playing with a Wii?
Correct. Yeah. It was... I was impressed. I was thoroughly impressed.
We're going to have to add these to our training.
Yeah, now, mind you, I believe none of these are free, but, I think, I believe A Hero's Call from Out of Sight is about $20.
Yeah, that's
still
not
pretty reasonable.
expensive.
Yeah.
And you would, of course, it shouldn't be that hard because, I mean, it shouldn't be that expensive because you're saving a fortune on graphics.
A Hero's Call actually had a Kickstarter, and from what I heard, what I was reading on the, on it, they were able to get fully funded, but one of the stretch goals was visuals, and they never made the visuals.
Yeah,
It wasn't needed.
yeah, it's like I'm sure they didn't make enough money for the visuals, but it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right. And I did mention that the Veil: Shadow of the Crown did have visuals. There are spots on the field that kind of make you realize, oh, I guess I'm moving in this direction, but it's not giving you any more information than, okay, maybe I'm turning in a specific direction. Or I'm going forward. The audio is far more important.
Right.
Yeah, so like, oh, I need
If you didn't see those spots telling you that you were moving, you would still figure it out.
Hero's Call is now freeware. Thank you.
All right.
Nice. Yes. Go ahead and try it out.
We are definitely going to have to add these to our training.
I'll bring this up to Hawk.
And we're going to have to find other games as well.
Yeah. Now, the only issue that I wasn't able to find out enough about this, because last week we were having a conversation about Zelda and whether or not it's an RPG. I don't know if there was any evolution of the character. But it seemed like, in terms of modern RPGs, most of the groundwork was already there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
as far as modern computer RPGs is considered, you know, this fits in that category.
At the very least, I say, with the Veil Shadow of the Crown, I saw as you progressed in the story, you learned certain skills, but that may have just been an aspect of the, a beginning tutorial. I don't know if there's any evolution past that.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that you as a person, this becomes more like a LARP. As you play the LARP, you naturally become physically better at it.
Oh, yeah.
Your character sheet may not change to reflect it, but your actual skills go up.
Yeah.
So I think your actual skills in these games will increase as you.
We don't use that as a standard of whether or not it's an RPG, because you can be playing Tetris and your skills on Tetris will go up.
No, I'm not talking about. Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
But you do it in the aspect of a LARP.
Even with a LARP, I have a character sheet where my character can become more powerful. That is above and beyond my capabilities.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, especially in your salon LARPs, your combat LARPs, your skills. Now, Amp Guard and some of the other ones do have different powers you can access as you go up in higher levels.
There you go.
For example, a third level fighter in Amp Guard can now sunder shields.
There is your evolution of character.
Right.
Yeah.
But also a third level character also there can clip your knees a lot easier than first level character.
And I feel like talking about a person's capabilities with a character in an RPG based off of their personal skill, I don't feel it would be fair to judge, for example, Dungeons and Dragons on whether or not it is a role-playing game based off of my capacity to function, to utilize a first level character as opposed to someone who's new to the game. I'm going to be far more capable with that first level character.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you learned some of the tricks. I've literally, I won't mention his name, had a dungeon master who asked me to simplify my tactics.
Yeah.
And I was kind of insulted by that.
I've had a game master who I've had a lot of back and forth with him, and there's a couple of stories that I have with him, but he challenged me back in 3rd edition, because I mentioned that I can break just about anything, to break the commoner class in 3rd edition. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I found a way to break it. I was allowed 1 proficiency. I'm allowed 1 non-weapon proficiency, poison making. I have 1 feat, combat expertise. Now you can't come in and on me or leaving without me getting multiple attacks of opportunity that can poison you.
Yeah.
I've just broken the commoner. More effective than some first level fighters.
Right, yeah.
He wasn't happy with that. Well, I mean,
He
wasn't
should be happy because he challenged you.
yeah. And, when we had a D20 modern game, I proved that, when I actually have a character, they can be as busted. The tactics that I use, I keep on mentioning, I'm a tactician.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I disagree with the concept that it's busted to use good tactics.
It depends on I'm not going to bring in tactics of Art of War if I'm playing tic-tac-toe with the kindergartners. It's just not fair. But if I'm playing against someone who I know is really, really good, yeah, I may institute psychological warfare on tic-tac-toe if I know that this person can handle psychological warfare. And yes, you can use psychological warfare in tic-tac-toe.
Anybody who's watching, did you ever play an audio RPG Is it true that Teddy Ruxpin at one time had a choose your own adventure type
An
interactive fiction?
I'm the concept of Teddy Ruxpin gives me nightmares. Because he is great and wonderful, and then his batteries start to die, and you realize, oh, this bear is possessed.
No, you really realize it is when you take the batteries out.
And he kept talking.
Yeah.
So, I present to you, the world, a two-step solution to make sure that your children have a sufficient amount of character building, character-defining events in their young lives. First, get a Teddy Ruxpin, and have them always have low batteries. Put them in the closet. And next to that Teddy Ruxpin, put in a Furby.
I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to go there. When Teddy Ruxpin and the Furby have an argument, there was...
The Furbies learn language from listening to speech, and they're listening to Teddy Ruxpin die.
There, somebody, for some reason, they had both Alexa and Siri.
Oh, yes.
And there was a story where the two were talking to each other.
Oh, geez. Wait, I just had my concept get worse, because remember, with Teddy Ruxpin, you could put in any cassette.
Right.
What if it's an audio book of Call of Cthulhu?
Yeah, can you imagine Teddy Ruxpin saying those chants?
Teddy Ruxpin is dying and speaking Aurelian.
All right, that's enough.
That may traumatize some adults.
So, these are the substitutes we have for our...
Not the Teddy Ruxpin, that's not a substitute, no. But yeah, Veil, Shadow of the Crown.
Yep.
And A Hero's Call by Out of Sight Games.
And as you mentioned, these are good for people, for solo role-playing games.
Yeah.
As well as great options for the visually impaired. Mm-hmm. Probably not good choices for the deaf or hard of hearing.
Right. Actually, when I saw some of the Let's Plays on A Hero's Call, it was done by a blind person.
Well, no, blind person is what it should be.
Yeah, but the blind person also was also hard of hearing.
Oh.
So they had to run it through OBS to make sure that, the one area that they were hard of hearing, they had to boost the audio on.
Right.
Yeah. It was...
Which really ruins that directionality.
Yeah, it does, and they admitted that. So it's not perfect. We understand that you can have multiple disabilities. There's only so much that we can do.
But we'll do our best, that's for sure. That is one of the things that here at RPG Research we do is look at accessibility needs of players. Who's been really good at accessibility needs for players is my son's least favorite console.
Which one?
Xbox. They have done real good in accessibility equipment and things to help disabled people play games.
Okay. There is that. I have my issues with Microsoft, but a win is a win sometimes.
Yeah. Broke clock right once in a while.
Why are we referencing these broken clocks? But yeah.
You started it.
I know I started it. I'm going to reap what I sow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Accessibility for the blind, to include braille dice, three-dimensional terrain that you can actually feel the difference between the dirt and the paved stones.
Go buy new clocks. Yeah. In fact, while doing my research on this, I had a brief but useful commentary from my significant other on the state of our society when it comes to accessibility in gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't use some of that language. But
I don't know why
agree.
anybody in our business or in the circles we have would have any foul language when it comes to accessibility.
Oh no!
Or
no.
strong opinions, even.
Oh no! People who have who have accessibility needs aren't allowed strong language and using language that properly conveys the emotional state of yeah. I'm just not going to repeat it here. Yeah, they have every right to be angry about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. So, what can you tell us? What the context of what your significant other was saying?
She was just saying that it's accessibility in gaming for for example games for blind people. It's there's barely any support, and that's unfortunate.
Well, and I do want to point out that there are organizations like Dots RPG who is working very hard to have Braille, Dice Braille books. They've already did the Braille Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's now out of date.
So we don't have a 2024 version of the Braille Handbook.
Yeah. In fact, we only have the 2014 Player's Handbook, not a Dungeon Master's Guide, not a Monster Manual, just the one book in Braille. We have a company, I wish I could remember their names, but they were very closely tied to nyctophobia, fear of the dark. And they, because you're supposed to play it blindfolded, also created Braille sleeves that go over the cards so that you don't have to be able to read the card. Now, the only person who needs to be able to read the card is the person who's playing the monster. But if he's blind too, naturally blind as opposed to having to wear a blindfold, they have Braille Uno cards, but the company that did the stuff for nyctophobia also has Braille sleeves for many different card games.
Nice. Perth also mentioned that Able Gamers is another one that has been doing some good things.
Yes.
And yeah, we can point out all these organizations that are doing good things. The argument here is there isn't enough.
I'm going to have to agree. There, especially if you're the person who's in that market, there's never going to be enough. But you also have some, and definitely not enough, where the accessibility is built into the game to start with.
Yeah.
There are sign language role-playing games out there now. Are they doing enough? Are they actually teaching sign language through this course?
Yeah.
There is a wonderful VR game called Mouse, where knowing sign language will help you a lot in that game. And you'll actually start learning some sign language by interacting with the other character.
I had a thought, and this is, this may just reveal my ignorance on the situation, but I feel a very easy way to have accessibility, especially in like written word, is do they just have like a Braille font where I can have all of my text and I type it in language that I know, and I switch the font from, for example, Calibre to Braille.
Yes. What that happens is you obviously can't run Braille on your screen.
Right.
But they will have a panel, a strip on your computer itself, the keyboard.
Actually, why wouldn't you be able to do it on your screen? Because even if I can see, I should be able to see, oh, the dots for Braille are there.
Because it's irrelevant if you can see the dots for Braille, you have to touch Braille.
I understand that.
Right. So on your computer screen, seeing dots is not an accessibility thing.
Right.
You need to actually feel the dots, which is why they have keyboards that have these running strips on them, and it physically pushes up the buttons so that you could feel the braille as it slides under your fingers.
Yeah, and I'm saying this not for the people who are using the braille, but for the people who are putting content for those who have accessibility needs. That's why I say the dots would matter.
Okay, in that case, what you still need is a special printer.
Yeah, I would agree with. That I would absolutely agree with.
You have to have and they exist. There are, if you want to do it, but the idea that I could just choose a braille font, well, that font is going to exist with that special printer, and you will be able to type out. Is already right now. You type out what you want to type in English. You
convert to braille,
and print.
Yeah.
Now you may have to take some time when you're doing that convert to braille, is to make sure your formatting doesn't get screwed up.
Yeah.
There are things that obviously are going to be different in your formatting. I would like to see a not only a printer that can print in braille, but can do emboss, so that I can emboss a picture that somebody could feel with their fingers.
Yeah.
Or the equivalent of ASCII.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are, as a society, trying to make things more accessible. Some people don't believe in that kind of stuff because, our resources are better spent on making me richer. But it is something that, RPG Research works on and works with other companies.
Right.
We do things with people who are hard of hearing, do sign language. I tried to get, for Gen Con, a volunteer to run a game in sign language. And they yelled at me and they says, you can't do that. You have to pay them. You can't have a volunteer. And, you can't ask somebody to translate. That's a lot of effort. It says, no, I'm not asking for a translator. I'm asking somebody to run a sign language game for sign language players. It's no different than if I asked for a Spanish speaker to run a game in Spanish.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have a game available for sign language players.
Yeah.
And not me run the game and have a translator sitting over my shoulder.
Right. Because they're also going to understand certain nuances in the culture that even if I'm saying and having a translator, I'm not a part of that culture. I acknowledge that there are certain things I'm just not going to know.
And one of the things that is a problem with the culture, the deaf community right now, as far as role-playing games, is deciding who gets to write the language for role-playing games.
I mean, that's something that I see in a lot of cultures, not just the deaf community, where how do we present ourselves as a culture to people outside of the culture? That can be very, very decisive or divisive. Yeah. I would also argue, and this is going back to
Misty Vader was one of the people for that was doing the American Sign Language role playing.
Yeah.
ASL-RPG, and there was another person, Susan Georginskin. He is another person who he did a book called Disability Toolkit.
Yeah.
For the Fate system. And it was not only about playing disabled people in a role-playing game, but it was about being accessible for people with disability.
Okay.
And so Jonskin, and I know I'm brutalizing their name.
Yeah.
Um, and Misty Vader and some other people, they all have disagreements about how the sign language should be done, who gets to decide what American Sign Language is being used.
Yeah.
What style? Let's see, ASL RPG. We have an article, of course, through RPG Research. I'm trying to find some names here to go with just beyond what I'm saying about.
So I'm getting the impression that there are dialects in American Sign Language.
Yeah. Not only that, there are definitely cultural and different ways that people talk. You talk with a Southern slang in sign language.
I love it.
And then we have, remember, we're still talking English, right?
Yeah.
But ASL is different than BSL.
What's BSL?
British Sign Language.
Uh-huh.
And ASL uses the French speaking patterns.
So you're bringing up an argument that I have been witness to on both sides of this argument. That you're saying that American isn't necessarily English.
Not well. It's yeah. I hate to say that, but
Full context: because I was born in Jamaica, we were taught English on the English system, the Queen's English, and then I moved to America and quickly found out that American English isn't English English.
Yeah. There was a Bell of Lost Souls article from 2019, How to Say Beholder in Sign Language. And it does talk about Misty Vader. Yeah. It does talk about Library of Congress being audio navigatable version of the Player's Handbook for visually impaired, including the Braille version. There was an issue about dragging things. Let's see. I'm still trying to find that one name. I know how to find it. Look up Fate Disability Toolkit.
Okay.
And Gaming with Disabilities Free Accessibility Tool. And this is, I think you can get this for free. And it was written by different people, for mental illnesses, people who are disabled, etc. How to deal with horror, how to deal with stunts. But what is her name? It's got to be in here. She did the part on sign language, and she put the she created some sign language things to be put in there. Let me try this. Control F, ASL, enter. Okay.
I wish I could add more to this, but this is more your forte.
Yeah, I've interviewed her on one of our previous talk shows.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm going to walk away from the screen. He's going to babble for a little while, and I'll be right back with a reference that'll help me out.
So one of the major things that I strongly believe in when it comes to accessibility is when we work on increasing accessibility, it doesn't just help the people we're creating the accessibility for. A common example that I tend to go for is when you're walking down the street on the sidewalk, you have the dips that go on the sidewalk. And that was an accessibility implementation for people with wheelchairs. Well, it helps them. It also now helps anyone who has a stroller, anyone who's dealing with anything wheeled, skateboarders, and many others. It is generally more beneficial for society to have it there, and it isn't just helping the people with wheelchairs. So, there is an example of an accessibility option for one community helping the wider community. I would argue that if we're going to be teaching multiple languages at a young age, which I thoroughly what's the word? Support? I mean, mind you, I'm horrible at Spanish. I've tried. I'm not good at learning foreign languages, but I know that if I was taught earlier, there may have been a better chance of me learning it. In addition to Spanish, I feel like American Sign Language, at least in America, should be an option. And I can imagine these scenarios where someone who isn't deaf but knows American Sign Language speaking to another person who isn't deaf but knows American Sign Language could be useful. They may need to talk without communicating with someone else, where they're using sign language across to each other. They're not talking over someone else. There may be instances where being able to communicate without sound could be incredibly useful. And I can see that in personal settings and in other settings, and it shouldn't necessarily be limited to the deaf community. I mean, that is my soapbox when it comes to supporting accessibility. It isn't just for that community. That community is important, but there are wider benefits to supporting that than just helping a community. It goes into a larger belief of mine that being compassionate isn't just beneficial to the person that you're being compassionate to. It has wider benefits as well, which aren't always apparent until you start doing it. Any luck?
No, I didn't find what I was looking for. And I was really hoping that this would. Where is? They should. Gaming with disabilities should be. I should be able to just get the handbook.
Okay. Well,
but
we're running low on the end of this.
Okay, good. Yeah. I really wish I had found the thing with their names because I want to say it right.
Would you be able to bring it up next week?
Maybe.
Probably bring that up in the just chatting.
We could probably do that if I don't find it. I have one more place that I can look that might be able to get it in the next 2 minutes. But if not, I would like to remind you all that RPG Research, 501c3 nonprofit, we do research on ways to improve gaming for everybody.
Yep.
And people who need accessibility, etc. They shouldn't have to ask for these things. We should be asking them, what do you need to make this game work for you?
Yeah.
And hopefully we will make this better for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. So what's up next? We've got Traps and Riddles.
Traps and Riddles, and then unboxing.
Yeah.
We're still doing the same Traps and Riddles that we always do, which is Challenge of Champions number 3. We'll talk more details about that when we get to it.
Yep.
What else? ASL for RPG is a reference you should take a look at. Dots RPG is also for the blind. And
I believe also came across Blind Gamers.
Yep.
Which had a nice list of games for blind people.
Where is she? She should be on this list here. Because I talked to her on this list. Oh, well.
Yeah.
If I find it, I'll get it, and then I will apologize wholeheartedly for my lack of ability to remember how to say her name.
Yeah. So.
But thank you, everybody, for listening to us. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
We'll see you in 15 minutes. Welcome back to RPG Talk Show. My name is Daniel Ivy, and this is
John Welker, Vice President of RPG Research, and this first segment is called Traps and Riddles.
Yep.
Now, what do we do on Traps and Riddles? I give him a scenario, and he tries to figure out how to survive that scenario. For his characters, not him. He's never actually in danger, folks.
no.
But Challenge of Champions, we're on our third Challenge of Champions module. I believe there's 5 in total. And each one has 10 scenarios. This is scenario number 4, called Cyan.
Okay.
This module is called Challenge of Champions 3 by Jonathan M. Richards, artwork by Fred Rawls, and the cartography by Diesel. For those of you who don't know, cartography is the guy who made these maps. If it's an illustration that isn't a map, then it is been done by Fred. Now, Dungeons Magazine, back in our day, we used to have these paper things called magazines. It was physically read. You would go to a store, pick it up, or you have it delivered in the mail.
How did you charge them?
With a credit card.
With a credit card. You should have said it's just solar powered.
Yeah.
Because you can't read it without light.
So anyways, this was made June of 2000. So a full 24 years ago.
Oh, I feel old. I feel old.
This is issue number 80, volume 14, number 2. And this scenario, again, is number 4, done, called Cyan.
Yeah.
The rules are simple. He has 4 characters that he has stats on, but he really doesn't need them. All he really needs to know is that he has a magic user, a fighter, a thief, and a cleric.
Paladin.
In this case, it's a paladin.
Yeah.
Any holy person there. So we got divine magic, arcane magic, fighting, and trickery. And he can only use the equipment given to him. So you just need the different magic users to activate the different type magic items or scrolls or whatever else they give you, ring of spell storing, etc.
Right.
Ooh.
Ignore it.
Yeah, I'm ignoring that.
Yeah.
Because it's none of my business. So you are led into a small 10 by 10 room by another guild protector, this time a wizard named Musfinch. In the middle of the floor is a circular opening, 6 feet in diameter. Through the hole, you see only water. This one should prove interesting, remarks Musfinch. Below the small room is a pool of water, 100 feet long. At the far end is a room just like this one. In that far room is equipment you might need to complete the scenario. There you will find a ring of free action and an 8-foot square sheet of fabric dyed the shade of blue-green known as cyan. The same color as the walls, floor, and ceiling of this room and of the pool below you are painted. The reason for this is simple. The pool below lives an ancient eye of the deep. As you can see in that illustration shown up there, it's a big one-eyed monster with huge claws.
It's a type of underwater beholder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this creature attacks everyone it sees. But its vision is failing, and it cannot see the color cyan. You must all make it to the room at the top of the other end of the pool within 15 minutes. The only items you start with on this end are a necklace of adaptation and a single dose of a potion of rainbow hues.
Necklace of adaptation?
Yep. And the dose of rainbow hues, which will change everything that you are carrying and yourself to a single color. You choose the color. Any questions?
Yes.
Begin.
I have a question.
What was your question?
What does the necklace of adaptation do?
Necklace of adaptation alters your physicality for things like, I don't know, allow you to breathe underwater.
Okay. Okay. So, I already have an idea.
Good, because
Okay.
that clock is a ticking.
Yes. And I have a potion of hues.
Yes.
So I'm going to have my druid, because they're most comfortable being underwater, putting on the necklace of adaptation.
Okay.
So they can be underwater. And would I be able to have the thing of hues turn me cyan?
Yes.
Okay. So how long will that last?
For the entire 15 minutes.
Okay. So
Or less now.
she uses that to turn herself cyan, and she has on, before doing that, the necklace of adaptation, allowing her to breathe underwater.
Okay.
Okay. Next, she's going to go underwater and swim past the underwater beholder, because it can no longer see her.
Okay.
She should be able to get to the other side, where she can find the ring of reaction and the 8x8 the 8x8 what you call it, cloth.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so you swim all the way to the other side. You're not seen by the monster. You get up there. It takes you a full round to swim the distance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Takes you 3 rounds.
3 rounds.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with the cloth, she's going to swim back to the other side with the cloth and the ring of reaction.
Okay.
Okay. She's going to pop out the other side. And we know that she can get over. We need to get 3 other people over.
Yep.
Okay. The thief is going to put on the ring of reaction.
Okay.
Okay. And can they hold their breath for that full distance?
Oh, easily.
Easily. Okay. So,
Remember, you can hold your breath for minutes.
okay. Perfect. So, they are going to both go underwater. The druid is going to go first and hold up the sheet to block the view of the beholder, so
Okay.
that the thief can go, can drop into the water behind the sheet.
Okay.
Then they are going to both swim at the top, and the druid is going to make sure that the
Well,
cloth,
there's not a lot of space at the top there.
is there more space at the bottom?
Yeah, sure. There's plenty of space. It's 20 feet deep.
Okay, so she's going to swim above the thief with the cloth over her, so it's covering both her and the thief, and she's going to escort the thief to the other side
Okay.
with the cloth.
Okay.
Okay, then blocking the beholder, she's going to post up to block the beholder with the cloth and allow the thief to break the surface.
Okay.
Then the thief is going to take the ring of reaction, hand it back to the druid, and she's going to make her way back to the other side.
Okay.
And we're going to repeat that process for the fighter and the paladin.
It takes you 1 round when you have the ring and you're not. So you get there much faster
Yeah,
with the ring. Okay. So you come up and you do what?
I give the ring to the paladin. The paladin puts it on, and she's going to escort the paladin to the other side like she just escorted the thief.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go back and do that same thing over
With the fighter.
With the fighter. Okay. That is almost textbook. It's textbook alternative choice that they give. The other action was to wrap the person in the sheet and you drag them over there. But with the ring of free action, it's really simple. It just doesn't cause you any problem. So you could have done it that way.
I wasn't going to assume that an 8x8 was going to be enough to wrap a paladin.
It is.
What if they're just really, really overweight?
Well, if you're so big that you can't be...
I feel it's a bit disrespectful.
Yeah, if you can't if you're so overweight that you can't use an 8-foot cloth to cover you up with, you've got problems. Like not being able to fit down that 6-foot hole.
I'm just saying, like, to treat it like a bag. I'm not about to do the calculation on surface area for volume. No, I'm not. I don't have 15 minutes to look up that calculation.
All right. Anyways, you've done it. You got past it. The only other example that it gave you as an option was to try to cover the monster with the blanket. But the monster has problems seeing, but it ain't stupid.
Right.
So it would just tear up the thing and then eat you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But good, great job. That was a nice quick one. Plenty of time to spare. I do want to bring up, though, real quickly about the last conversation was that
You found the information that you're looking for.
yeah, Elsa Sue Jensen, Elsa Sue Jensen Henry, because she's now married.
Congratulations.
And there was a couple links that I wanted to bring up for her, which for the how to actually get the Fate Accessibility Toolkit, either as a PDF or hardback. So you guys can go ahead and look those up, and you're going to really enjoy. He's one of the people who was trying to do the sign language. So is it who gets to be the author of the language for role-playing games? That is still being argued, and I'm not in on it.
I guess it's a good thing that I was able to get through this Challenge of Champions quickly so that you had more time, but he did not give me the answer. I figured this out by myself.
I never give him the answer until afterwards. He figured it out. I figured this was either going to be an instant, boom, I know how to do this, or it was going to be, you're dead.
Yeah, but I feel like and I think you know me well enough, but when it comes to colors, I think I have an advantage.
Well, just because you actually know what the color cyan looks like.
I utilize it a little bit more.
Is there anything on screen that has that cyan color?
I want to say down over here, that second kind of cloud area is getting close to cyan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that gives us plenty of time to go over our last part of this.
The unboxing?
The unboxing.
Okay.
Now, if we run out of time, or I should say more logically, if we find ourselves with too much time, we will just jibber jab for a little while.
So we'll just go into another just chatting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the topic will be whatever comes off the top of our heads.
Okay. Let's make sure that we do not have doxing information on screen.
Yep, take off that sleeve first. Now, I want to say this, first of all, about this company. This is Dungeon in a Box.
Yep.
They have several versions of things that you can get. This happens to be the Wondrous One-Shots, which is the only one that I'm prescribed to. They have one where you get a box every month, and it's a campaign. So each box is a different part of the campaign. And they're really nice, and they do some unique things to make it fun, but you get all these plastic minis and stuff. And one of the things I do like is while my other company that I get box stuff from has a really nice box, they wrap theirs every time in that plastic bag, which makes it a little bit more weatherproof.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so inside
Is
have,
the void.
we have cat material. We've got the black paper. Does your cat like black paper?
My cat doesn't care what color it is.
Okay.
At least it hasn't actually told me.
Has not expressed an opinion one way or another on the color.
Right.
Okay. Next, we have more plastic things. Okay, we have Cooking Quest, Harvest of Gobbler Hills.
So obviously this is a Thanksgiving one. And of course we're getting it just in time for that feast.
Yep.
This one's wrapped in plastic. That's because there's other parts in the plastic. What else we got?
We have a base, and this is a fairly large base, and there is a fairly...
Actually, that's a fairly huge base.
I was being relative as opposed to being specific to D&D sizing.
Right.
And we have a monster.
Dire turkey.
A turkey monster.
Oh,
Gobble, gobble.
Look at it. Just is that dripping blood?
No. It's the dangly bits.
Ah.
The dangly bits of the, you know, and I know I'm using anatomically accurate terms here. It's the gobbly parts of the turkey.
Okay, this thing doesn't look like it has wings.
It looks like it's got claws.
Yeah, it's got...
So it's closer to the velociraptor family.
Right, it's like a velociraptor with lots of feathers.
And dangly bits.
And a big tail.
Yes.
And it's actually much bigger than a real velociraptor because...
Well, yeah, the real velociraptors were actually quite small.
Yeah, they were chickens.
Yeah. Although we did find a raptor that is closer to the size that was shown on Jurassic Park.
Yeah?
They're the Utah raptor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So...
Go Utah.
No. I watched Jurassic Park. I know how dangerous those things are. We have more. We have various... Oh, we've got a smaller turkey.
Yeah.
And we have some mushrooms. We have a treant. Or an ent, depending on which trademarks you're dealing with.
And are those mushroom people?
Or myconoids, depending on which trademarks you're dealing with.
Okay.
Yes.
And
So-
some other little plant-like
They look
critters.
absolutely festive. Yes.
Is this a problem where you? I mean, I'm just guessing. Is this a problem where you're trying to decide whose dinner, you or these critters?
No, I'm not. I don't have a problem with that. Their dinner.
You hope.
No. I am a carnivore.
Yeah, I don't think that turkey there cares, especially the really big raptor, giant raptor one. Okay, so what else we got in the box?
You have there's something in it here. I'm not exactly sure, but look here.
Could be recipe cards.
Cranberry. Oh, these are item cards. Cranberry stranglers. Ingredient: cranberry stranglers. Flavor: yield 1d4 servings of cranberry stranglers if a plant-related spell is cast on the crop blight. Instead of the intended effect, the creature ripens. Also, these are, I guess, our effects. Like, I guess, Food Wars meets role-playing games.
Yeah. Look, I am Kilroy.
Kilroy?
Yeah, Kilroy was here.
Oh, okay there.
No, I'm fine. I just broke everything else. No, nothing's broken. Don't worry, Caroline. I didn't break the work computer.
So,
All right, here we go. I'll scoot back over here.
perfect. Well, we've got a perfect pumpkin.
Yay!
Yay.
That reminds me, I'm supposed to throw the pumpkins off the porch. Marshmallow plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize that there's actually a plant
Uh-huh.
that marshmallows come from.
And then we have, this was prepared and checked by an enigmatic brain eater. This is the quality control card, always by some eldritch horror.
I think it's always the same eldritch horror.
I'm not going to assume that. They're eldritch horrors.
Right.
That's what they want us to believe. That is the same one every single time. I'm going to do the proper thing and not try to rationalize it.
Yeah, sure. Is that everything in the box?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's open. Go ahead and open up those things, the pictures, and let's see what they look like with a little less glare on them.
Hold on. Let's want to get the cards back in their sleeve. I'm actually excited to get into that campaign.
Oh, yeah. It's a one-shot,
Yeah,
so we would
one-shot.
call that a module.
Yes.
A campaign is made of multiple modules, or one really super long module that takes levels and levels to get you through.
Okay, so you wanted to get into these?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there aren't many. There's only one huge base. I'm guessing that's for the super-sized turkey.
Right now, I signed up for the version that the regular sized bases. I have enough, so they don't need to send me any more.
Okay.
I can turn that back on if I suddenly think I need more bases.
Yes.
But if you need more than 10 bases, you're now putting out armies.
Yes.
Okay, so I like the colors.
Oh, I think the colors are vibrant. I love it.
And I kind of like the art styles that they do on some of these things here.
It is creepy but whimsical, which is always a wonderful overlap.
Now, don't call me off on this. Don't try to correct me, but I believe that the people who make these minis is the same company as Arknight, who specializes in just making plastic 2D miniatures.
I would not be able to call you out on that. I don't have that information, and yeah. And that's the backside of them.
Pocket Dragon, what's gross?
They're gross now.
So let's see take a look at the big giant turkey.
Okay. Get this back inside.
Yeah, this is going to be our new centerpiece for Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanksgiving. Oh, the turkey.
Yeah. The pumpkins are gross. Oh, the ones that I was supposed to throw out. Yes. Yeah.
Are your pumpkins speaking Rillian now?
Oh, yeah. They're having strange growths, and
are your pumpkins taking on non-Euclidean shapes?
definitely.
Definitely.
Okay, so look how big that is.
Yeah.
A player character would come up just to about his hand.
Yeah, mind you, this is on the grid. So we have one side right here, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, easily 4. So yeah, that is huge. That's a huge bird.
Yep, that's closer to size to an elephant than to a horse.
And I'm claiming the white meat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm claiming the white meat. Yeah.
You want some of that breast?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So let's see what the module looks like in the map.
So there's
the back end.
The back end.
Take a tail feather.
Okay, let's crack this thing open. Ah, there it is.
Now, of course, I'm expecting to find the module itself and the maps.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have the maps. And they're right there. Let's go to the maps. There's 2 of them.
Oh, are they double-sided?
Looks like it.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
That's 4 maps.
We have some vibrant... I'm already seeing some vibrant colors.
Yeah. Normally, I only get like 1 map. I mean, 2 maps. I get, 1 on each side. But this is the first time I'm going to be getting a... well, maybe not the first time, but this is 4 poster-sized maps, battle grid size, which means each square is 1 inch for those 28 millimeter medium miniatures.
One. And take a look at the pinks on that. That is beautiful.
And that's a trail, it looks like.
Yes.
You think that's outdoors or indoors? Like a cave? Yeah, outdoors?
I see trees. The pink things are rocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do we got on the other side?
Autumn. We have autumn on the other side.
Now that is some color.
Yeah. I said they were vibrant.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
psychedelic practically.
I don't think it's vibrant enough to be psychedelic. It's not in the neons yet, but that is still very, very vibrant.
Hey.
It is very much giving that feel of autumn where like, oh, the colors are changing. And it isn't just like, oh, things are going to get dark. No, beautiful colors.
An explosion of color.
Yes. And then, this is the second map. Don't think it's as vibrant, but still... Oh, yeah, still some vibrancy here.
The pumpkins.
We have... It looks like a pumpkin patch, because there's a whole bunch of pumpkins.
And is that a table? Or that's a blue bush. That's what that is.
Blue bush. They're on the other side.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. We have a feast. And I could see you utilizing this to roll initiative to see which position in the table you are.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you sit next to Grandma.
I'm gonna get to the cranberry sauce.
Grandma's. We were watching one of the television shows. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage.
Georgie and Mandy?
Yeah. Now, it's a spin-off of a spin-off. So you got the Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
And then you have Young Sheldon.
Yeah.
And then you have Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, which are most of the characters without Sheldon there.
Okay.
And it's their first Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And the mom, Georgie's stepmom, Mandy's actual mom, brings out homemade cranberry sauce.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "Why isn't it shaped like the can?" She goes, "Like because it's homemade."
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe next year we can spring for the good stuff.
Oh. Oh no. No. That's fighting words.
Yeah, he hasn't even tasted the stuff, but he wants his canned cranberry sauce.
Yeah, and I'm not telling you, I like the cranberry sauce from the can because I like the novelty of the little ridges. But I know I like it for the novelty of the ridges. I know it's not good cranberry sauce. I fully admit sometimes I like eating garbage.
Okay, Cooking Quest, yes. Harvest of Gobbler Hills.
Yes.
What's that at the very top by your fingertip?
Right here?
Yeah, what's that? Is that words?
Wondrous one-shots.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
And you can see the poor guy being chased down by the super turkey.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a goblin and a halfling being chased down by their dinner. Yes.
Okay.
And I find it appropriate that there is a goblin dealing with a gobbler.
Right,
There's some alliteration there. Okay. Cooking Quest, Harvest of Gobbler Hills. I'm going to read this. Cooking Quest, Harvest of Gobbler Hills is a cooking-focused adventure designed for 5th level party of 4 adventurers. The adventure sees the party helping to broker peace between 2 warring clans of farmers in the rugged backcountry of the Meadowcroft Mountains. The farmers' once fertile holler has become dangerous as the land itself seems to rise up against them, and both clans blame the other. The party must unite these clans by preparing a traditional harvestful feast and hunting down a rampaging turkey monstrosity. Yep.
All right, let's see what kind of good artwork we have hidden in here. Turkey, the plant monster.
Yes.
Is that a sweet potato or a sour potato?
He doesn't look either sweet or sour to me. He looks kind of complacent. That's a complacent potato.
He's content.
He's content. or maybe he's resigned to know that of his fate. There's a little area on here that I feel is appropriate here. Vegan options. Vegan options. For vegan or vegetarian players, consider replacing meat ingredients with a magical plant-based substitute. In this case, the dire turkeys are all magically animated turkey tubers, created by Octovesta, to cause problems for the clan folk. I would also assume that they're changing them from beasts or monstrosities to plants.
I suppose so.
Yes. We have a reproduction of one of the maps.
What's it say at the bottom? It should be a title.
Governor starts here, and party starts here.
Okay. So that's obviously where we start fighting the giant turkey.
I would assume so.
Is that our first encounter? It's not even the boss monster?
I haven't gone into the specific options yet, so
Yeah.
don't quote me on anything.
Right.
Right now, I'm just here for the pretty pictures. Speaking of which, another representation of the... So it looks like all the maps need to be utilized in a specific way. Or at least two of them.
Yeah, the gobbler starts here.
It's...
We had one where my son actually played it, and it would reuse the same maps over and again, except he was... One time you'd go from left to right, the next time you'd go from top to bottom.
So utilizing it in different ways.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But I wonder what the turkey CR is.
I haven't gone to the monster stats yet.
Yeah.
Looks like they're just reproducing a lot of the pictures, which I don't mind because that's efficient. And sometimes when you put in work for a lot of really good pictures, which they obviously have, you can't necessarily create brand new ones, so you have to reuse them.
Right.
So absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And these reproduction pictures are just pictures of the critters.
Yes. Oh, we have the stats on the whooping gobbler.
That's what it's called, whooping gobbler?
Whooping gobbler, yes.
Because it's going to whoop you.
It's a gargantuan monstrosity. It's chaotic neutral.
Gargantuan?
Yes.
That's much bigger than a huge.
Yes. At least it's not colossal, but colossal no longer exists in 5th edition.
Yeah. That is one of my complaints.
155 hit points to get through.
That's the median hit points. If you do like I do and max out the hit points so that they last more than a round.
It's got a speed of 50 feet, but a fly speed of only 30.
They're clumsy flyers.
Yeah. Strength of 22. Charisma, so sense of self is only 5. And it's got even less intelligence. So yeah, a turkey. Can I convince this thing to look up while it's raining?
If you can communicate in its language.
It uses its tail feathers as a ranged weapon.
Oh, sound like my blood ravens.
Yeah. It also has some legendary actions. It has a fling. The whooping gobbler attempts to fling one creature grappled by its beak. The creature must succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw or be thrown to a spot within 60 feet of the whooping gobbler, taking 1d10 bludgeoning damage for every 10 feet it was thrown. Nice.
Ouch. So what's the CR on this thing? For 5th level characters.
Yes.
This is a boss fight.
This is a boss fight. Yeah. It also has a wing gust, which recharges on after a short rest, so I guess only once. And a frightful gobble recharge after a short rest, so once per battle. And hopefully you're not fighting this more than once. And there's 2 bosses.
Yeah?
There is a Oakenvast.
The end.
Yes. That is a large fae.
Right.
Chaotic evil.
So he's a bad tree.
Challenge rating 9.
Holy cow.
And far more competent, has a con of 21, strength of 20, intelligence of 10, wisdom of 19. Yes.
And it's going to stomp you into the ground.
It has thorned root. It has earthquake as legendary action.
So
And rooted healing. It draws power from the ground and heals itself for 2d8 plus 4 hit points. It's a legendary action.
thank goodness. I hopefully this does not have a scenario where you get to fight both those two things at the same time.
I hope not. It also has tremor sense of 60 feet. Oh, this I feel is going to be the real boss. Challenge ratings be darned, this looks like more of a threat to me.
Right.
Yeah.
It should fight better.
Oh yeah. Because there's I have a lot of hit points to get through, or I have to deal with this thing. And I find dealing with something where it is reacting appropriately and anticipating things is a lot harder fight than, I have a lot of meat to get through.
Yeah. I find some of my players, they're always surprised when I don't know what surprises them more, when my dumb monsters do dumb things, or when my smart monsters outsmart them.
I remember I was running a white dragon, and white dragons have the stereotype of being dumb.
Compared to other dragons, they definitely are.
Compared to other dragons, and then I took a look at the intelligence of this one white dragon. It's like, oh look, that's a 12. He may be dumb compared to other dragons, not that dumb.
He's smarter than average.
So they were taken back because they were thinking on a flat plane, and they decided, we're going to spread out so that it can't get us all with its breath weapon. And then I had this dragon climb up onto the ceiling because it has ice climbing.
Yeah.
And hit them all with its breath weapon from an angle. They were not happy with that, but they realized, this thing is fighting in 3 dimensions now.
Yeah, I mean, it is smarter than average person.
Yes.
It's going to use the environment to its advantage.
And that's one of the ways that I play white dragons, where they absolutely utilize the environment. I treat them like barbarians. Some barbarians, effective barbarians. Not just I'm going to get angry and hit things. A really dangerous barbarian, before they go into rage, they get that surprise round because that light armor allows them to have a decent amount of dex and get you from stealth.
I had a group of normally really smart players go up against a wizard. They were all 4th level characters. Round 1 for the wizard, fireball. Round 2, ice storm. There was no round 3.
What happened?
TPK.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because, and they talked about it afterwards. They forgot that grouping up against a AoE person is not a smart thing.
See, for at least one of my wizards, and I think you're playing with one of them at a high enough level. First round, sickening radiance. Second round, keeping you in sickening radiance.
Or trying to.
Yeah. So
then you find out, I'm immune to that.
You're immune to exhaustion?
Yes.
And radiant damage? As a necromancer? What's a necromancer using radiant damage for? Yeah.
All right, so that's our story. It's a Thanksgiving feast story. Yeah. Twisted on his head a little bit.
Well, it looks absolutely fun. It looks whimsical, and as much as I play my edgelords, I love whimsical as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some games are supposed to be just fun and funny, or punny even.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's not everything must be so serious. You can have range. You can absolutely have range.
And why so serious?
Yeah. And you can have range within the campaign as well. I actually find that when you have range in the campaign, when you get to those, more extreme, it hits harder.
Right.
So
relentless terror exhausts your players.
Yeah. That will make a great thumbnail. But yeah, if you want horror, give them a break from the horror so that they can drop their guard. And you can terrorize them again. Whereas if it's relentless, like, look, another jump scare. It's right there. It's coming. And now jump scare doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or,
You know,
oh, they're manipulating me. Yeah, they're always manipulating. I've gotten immune to the gaslighting.
the speaking of relentless,
Yeah.
the module that you're running in, it was designed not to be thoroughly explored. It was just.
Are we being thorough?
Oh, you are being thorough. But one of the reasons is because I've made a change to the way the dungeon works to encourage you guys to be thorough.
Okay.
The fact that we have one archaeologist and two anthropologists.
Well, one and a half anthropologists.
Yeah, 1.5 anthropologists. Yeah, we have
anthropologists in title only.
Well, I can understand it. He's not studying people and their culture. He's running through a trap-through dungeon that he's afraid of.
Yeah.
Not that he'll ever admit it.
I feel like he's playing a turtle, and I feel this turtle puts the terror in terrapin.
Right, exactly.
This is the anthropologist. Anthropologist.
Yeah. Well, the way it was designed was that you are not supposed to get any long rests. In that huge dungeon. In fact, in the first floor, I would say this entire map that we covered this table here with wouldn't really do a third of the map because there are huge rooms and large areas to cover. But you get no long rests because you are constantly taking damage from the poison. And I told them how to get around the poison, which I shouldn't have done. I should have made them figure that out themselves. But the idea that you're taking damage every single hour means no long rests, no short rests.
Yeah.
And that place is way too big to be charging through that fast.
I feel like there's something to be said, Lloyd, where if you're designing something where the goal is to not beat it, then be upfront about that. I remember, I'm going to invoke something from the ages gone by in the internet. I used to play Neopets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We love that card game.
Oh, this was the website.
Yeah, never played that.
Yeah, and there was a game on Neopets where you could create your own dungeon. And because of the absolute sadist that I am, I created a dungeon where the only way to beat the dungeon was to not go in. If you went past the first door, there was no winning the dungeon.
Yeah.
You had to choose not to go in.
I do remember a computer game where the dungeon was designed that the only way to beat certain rooms was by stacking up the dead bards. And you're the dead bard. So every time you went into a room and you died, your body stayed behind. And you come back through and you'd find your dead body where you last died. And if you got enough dead bodies, you can stack them up to get past the obstacle.
That's grisly.
Exactly.
That is grisly. Oh,
I think it was called Invincible or something, or Overpowered. No, it's called Overpowered.
Overpowered.
Yeah, and when you got to a certain point, and then you just go, you literally, the whole thing next, you're no longer actually playing. The whole sequence is you just busting through the entire dungeon with no effort. You just, but it's basically a cutscene.
A cutscene. Oh. So when it comes to and this is me nitpicking on, like, you know, some of the philosophy of gameplay, where there is some games that where the point of the game is a power fantasy.
Right.
Okay. If it is a video game, you want that power fantasy to be exercisable and not watched, because if you're just watching it, you don't feel empowered.
I don't think Overpowered was meant to be a power fantasy. I think it was supposed to be a mocking of power fantasies. I mean, a game that's designed that, oh, I need a counterbalance here. Do I have enough corpses?
Yeah. I mean, mind you, what you're describing also reminds me of a game that started on Newgrounds, Super Meat Boy.
Yeah.
I'm talking about another grisly game where you die, you try to get through these levels, and you die in horrible ways, and when you finally get done with a level, it will show you repeat all the deaths that you did before you were able to succeed. I think there was a sequel, I think Super Meat Girl or Super Meat Boy 2. It's a grisly game, and if you like gore, it's fun.
Yeah, and there are some games that are not technically horror games, but are horrific.
Yeah.
Such as The Reclamation of Isaac.
Oh, yeah. The Binding of Isaac.
The Binding of Isaac.
Yeah.
That is a horror. It's well done, but it's a horrible game.
It is. There is, and oh jeez, because
There's a card game now out for it.
Oh jeez. I have a very nuanced opinion on horror that basically comes down to I don't enjoy horror, but for multiple different reasons.
Yeah, that's very nuanced.
Well, it's either done poorly, like not even fun, schlocky movies.
Right.
At this point, I'm not enjoying it, so I don't enjoy it. Or it's done really, really, really well, and I respect it, but I don't like being scared. So that's the other reason why I don't like it. So get to the end result. But some of them are like, oh yeah, that's not Binding of Isaac. It is dealing with some concepts that are a bit tragic and unsettling. I wouldn't consider it horror unless the concept is unsettling to you. I deal with a lot of unsettling concepts already, so for me, it's not really triggering.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the audience.
Yeah.
For me, I like. I enjoy a good slasher once in a while, but I prefer thinking man's horror.
Yeah.
Like the Eldritch horrors
Or Babadook.
or Babadook.
Yeah.
I definitely like where thinking and understanding the logic is more important than, oh, look, nearly naked person gets cut
Yeah.
with a chainsaw. Or, oh, what creative way can we do to cut people up or torture or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a fan of torture porn.
Yeah. There is a psychological technique in storytelling that induces fear, and those are utilized by very competent horror movies. And I don't like being subjected to that. That's why I don't like them. Tell me how you really feel. This is how I really feel, her. This is how I really feel.
I really, really do. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I understand that, sadism tends to be matched a lot of times with masochism. I'm not a masochist. I don't like being hurt.
And it is funny is how you present something. The same exact creature can be silly.
Yes.
Look at Frankenstein's monster.
Uh-huh.
We can run it where it is completely humorous, as he's hanging out with his wife and his kids, and the ugly one is the blonde bombshell.
Oh, it's entirely in character for Frankenstein's monster to sit down and have a deep conversation with you about various philosophical topics while drinking tea. It is within his character.
Right.
Yeah.
He does some horrific things in the actual books that are caused by circumstances and misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So yes,
The monsters.
It took you this long to figure it out. It was the monsters. Okay. I thought it was going to be super obvious.
No, he's talking about Lurch. You're being discriminated.
You rang.
Yes.
You know, he was supposed to be mute.
You know what? I like Lurch.
Lurch was supposed to be mute, but he got in that line. You rang, and people.
It was gold after that.
Yeah.
That's an ancient show.
Hey, in my day and age, we watched television by candlelight because that's how we got the shadows on the cave walls.
Okay, Plato.
I changed my accent halfway through there.
But
I became Godfrey for a second.
you were talking about presenting it, presenting concepts in certain ways.
Yeah.
I'll
From humor, the same character from humorous to horrific. People don't think of it, but a typical Dungeons and Dragons dungeon should be terrifying.
absolutely. Yeah.
And the difference sometimes between it saying you see a werewolf versus you see this slathering, hairy beast with claws dripping with gore. It's the same monster.
It also I could say, it doesn't seem like your weapon does any damage. I could also say, yeah, that cut that should have hurt it. The flesh starts knitting itself back, even while your sword is still in its belly.
And as you pull it out, the squelchings. We can get adjectives. Make
the world go around. Another example, and this is from movies. The Alien movie is objectively scary.
Right.
You put the character, the actor who was playing the alien in full light. Oh, it's funny now. Those shadows did so much work in Aliens.
It did. The scarier parts is when you don't see the monster clearly.
Yeah, you don't know what you're looking at.
The Bird Box is a great example. Have you seen the Bird Box?
Is it horror? Then no.
Okay, it's kind of hard. When you don't see the monster, the whole point of Bird Box is not seeing the monster. Because if you see the monster, you'll get there's two symptoms. Suicidal, and if you don't commit suicide, you try to get other people to see the monster so that they will become suicidal or try to get other people to see the monster.
Okay, when it comes to the concept of suicide, and I know this is a very, very touchy subject, I am peculiar about that because I feel like a lot of times, and this is going to, I apologize right now, this is going to be dark, I at times feel like the representation of suicidality is misrepresented.
Okay. Well, it all depends on the show. There was M. Night Shyamalan's called The Event, I believe. And it these were forced, that suicide and the Bird Box are a forced suicides. It's not a representation of actual suicidal ideation or things like that. 13 Reasons Why is an actual look in at suicide ideation in somebody who committed suicide.
I actually think I have one that was even better, because 13 Reasons Why has its issues, but the first couple of episodes of the remake of Interview with a Vampire,
right?
There's a character who commits suicide, and Perth watched it with me. I knew, minutes before he went through it, he's gonna commit suicide, because all the hallmarks of suicidality was there.
Right, you could see it coming, and like an Alfred Hitchcock, the bomb is there, but nothing you can do about it.
And I would say, unless someone was familiar, not just the acting, but
do you watch Alfred Hitchcock?
Not really.
Technically horror.
I know, but it was one of those things where, like, I knew the bomb was there, but I also knew that that is a well-hidden bomb where not everyone's going to realize it.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those where, the character who committed suicide, it was in a moment of lucidity. They were particularly clear, and I watched as they wrapped up all of their business, and you watch them wrap up every single one of their business, and then with their brother, they made peace with their brother. And if you don't know that that is going to be happening with someone who's suicidal, it can take you from left field. But for me, where I've had to deal with that concept, I saw that train coming.
Right. If you are one of those professionals who have been trained, or if you're somebody who's actually dealt with it in real life, if it's done correctly in the show, you should see it coming.
Yes.
One of the worst things about suicide is that people who should have seen it, they don't see it coming. And I think it's 844. Is that the suicide hotline?
I feel irresponsible by not having this memorized.
Well, I'm going to verify right now.
Yeah. If you feel like you have no options left, reach out. And especially if you are a friend who has one of those quote unquote strong friends, check in on them.
988.
988. Yeah.
Or you can text home to 741-741 to reach trained crisis counselor. There are many other lines out there that you can use for your particular issues, but like if you're a vet or if you're trans,
part of the LGBT community.
But yes, let's start with 988 as a good thing. As a saying goes that I've seen posted online multiple times before, I would rather listen to you all night long than to go to your funeral. Yeah.
And, contrary to, and this is getting back into what I was just talking about, contrary to what is displayed a lot in the theater, a lot of times the people who commit suicide, they don't warn people. They don't. Because they're trying to not be a burden on their loved ones. Trying to tell them, oh, you'll be missed, it doesn't work. It doesn't. I've generally found that when it comes to suicide, they don't want attention. They're in pain, be it social, emotional, or physical, and they don't have any other options that they can find to end the pain.
Okay, veteran suicide prevention is going to be the same number, but they say text 838255 to start a confidential chat. So the veteran crisis line wants you to call the same 988 number. They used to have a separate number, but why? We just need to all get to the same helplines. Yeah, they don't want attention.
They don't.
Sometimes they don't want to be stopped. And one of the most, I just saw a show called Brilliant Minds. The last one we talked about was a shocker. No, not the last one, because that was about the 80-year-old woman who'd rediscovered sex. But the one before that,
a bit different,
was a guy who didn't, he had locked-in syndrome. And they gave him the ability to communicate, and unfortunately the thing that he wanted to communicate was that he no longer wanted to live. And it's a tough one to watch, but
it gets back to what I said, where they're in pain. It doesn't have to be physical, but they're in pain that they can't escape.
And we're here to help you. You want to talk to me, you want to talk to any of us, we're available. But start with 988. If you know me, you know my phone number, or you can always send me a message. if you want something to talk about specifically on our talk show, info@rpgresearch.com, subject line RPG talk show. This is the end of our session here tonight. Sorry to bring it down for you at that last to the moment.
I feel it's always important to point out that we are not afraid to talk about the difficult subjects, because sometimes you have to. Avoiding those difficult subjects is only going to make those difficult subjects harder to deal with.
And and I don't know if I should say this is unfortunately or fortunately, but there are role-playing games, and these can be subjects that people will bring up. And you got your safety tools, and you have your after-game care, especially in LARPs.
You explore a difficult topic, and then afterwards you talk about it. You explore it, you dissect it, you work through it. And mind you, not everyone is equipped to be able to do that, so don't just dump that on your random DM.
Yes, debriefing is a good term for it.
Yeah.
All right. We will see you next week, where our topic will be what?
Oh, geez.
We talked about it last week.
Yes, we did. Jog my mind, because I can't remember right now.
All right. We've done electronic
role-playings,
we've done...
we're going to go back to LARP.
Yes.
Yes. Because we had one person who was talking about combat LARPs. There's also salon LARPs, which we have a bit more experience with. We can get into that. I don't know if we're specifically going to into salon LARPs, but I do know that I, for example, don't have much experience with combat LARPs, and wouldn't mind a briefing on that, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about non-combat LARPs and others that exist besides Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
Or as it's called, Mind's Eye Theater, World of Darkness.
Yeah, the entire World of Darkness series, which includes Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Mage Ascension, Changelings. They basically have all the monsters.
Yeah.
Including humans.
Yeah, they're the real monsters. That's the hunter.
Yes.
So anyways, it's time for us to say goodnight and all those things. So what did you just say?
I said goodnight.
And dream well.
Yes. See you next week.